Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today I have a very special video for you guys, and I'm not just saying that. It actually is a very special video for numerous reasons. Number one, we're going to cover one of my favorite categories of fragrances of all time, period, and that's animalic fragrances. So this is going to be a special episode of This Is Not a Top 10. The second reason is I found out that apparently my CFP class is going to require some pre-first day work, which I was not expecting. So I'm going to be probably a little bit bogged down. It's going to be hard for me to make these long form videos where we talk about, I think I probably have 30 different fragrances here to show you guys, maybe more. So I'm going to try my best to continue doing these videos as often as I can. It's going to be a pretty big time commitment for this CFP. So in the meantime, I figured we might as well knock out one last This Is Not a Top 10 until I get some more free time, which who knows when that's going to be. And true to form, this is going to be a long video, so prepare yourselves. But before we get started, we are going to do Scent of the Day, which is a Clive Christian. Ooh. Ostrich box, me lord. And this is not necessarily an animalic scent. It kind of is, but not something I would have included in this list had it not been my scent of the day. So there you have it, and you can see the dent I've put into this bottle. I actually really like this fragrance, but it's a take on Tuscan leather, okay? And so it's a take on Tuscan leather from Clive Christian. This came out 3 years after Tuscan Leather was released. You can see the little touch that Clive Christian does. Ooh, fancy. And, this is probably very overpriced, if I must say so myself. But I really like the fragrance because it's almost like you took Tuscan Leather and you added some nuance to it. You added some, apparently there's oud in this. Oud was all the rage in 2010, so I could see them adding a drop of real oud, maybe. Maybe not, I don't know. If they say there's real oud in there. But I don't really get a big oud accord. Maybe in the background, it's more about the leather to me. And they kept the raspberry note, but it's kind of toned down a bit. That ashtray feel you get with Tuscan Leather is kind of toned down. There's still tobacco here. And styrax and vanilla and frankincense and elemi and mandarin and tea and thyme and on and on and on. Orris, I mean, it's packed with notes. But really, you get this Tuscan Leather feel. And it is, it's a 50 ml bottle. There's no way I would replace this, especially not with the ostrich box. Ooh. Ostrich box. So kind of pretentious, probably way overpriced. It must sit in its silk coffin. Great scent nonetheless. If you have money burning a hole in your pocket and you like Tuscan Leather, or you just ran out of your bottle of Tuscan Leather, or maybe you want something close but not exactly the same, check this out. It's a little more nuanced. It's a little more detail-oriented. The average guy on the street would probably have a very hard time deciphering the two apart, I would think. Maybe a pro who knew fragrances, but most people, probably not. Okay, so now let's move on to the actual list. This is going to be a long list, as I've said, so prepare yourselves. First, we're going to start with a couple fragrances that I struggle with. By the way, a lot of these are going to contain a couple notes that you'll see over and over again. And animalics in perfume are usually civet, which it's a creature that is prevalent in Africa for the most part. And it looks like a cat, but it's not a cat. I think it's actually closely related to the hyena family. I think that's its closest, biological relative, if you will. But it secretes this, I don't know what you would even call it. It secretes something that looks like piss. And the people who gather this civet, it's a big trade item because it's used in other things like hunting, you know, not just in perfumery, but it's a very sought after item. Now there's a lot of synthetic civets and stuff like that, but because it was very, you get back here, it was very cruel to the animals how they used to, you know, farm it, if you will. In the old days, they would keep them in small cages and they would agitate the animal. The more the animal got agitated, the more it would secrete this, you know, piss, if you will. It's not piss, it's something that comes out of one of their glands. I don't know if you'd call them anal glands or secretion glands or what, but whatever it is. And then there's other animalics like Hyrax or Hyraceum comes from an animal, and it literally smells like a you know, it gives off like a feces type smell. And then there is ambergris, which is made from the sperm whale. Whenever it gets like a beak or something from a cephalopod caught in its intestinal tract, only 1% of sperm whales actually make ambergris. They poop it out or they throw it up. There's some disagreement between scientists, but either way, they, you know, the stomach inner lining of the whale wraps this, you know, initially when it comes out, this silk-like structure around the beak to help the whale expel it, if you will. And it floats in the ocean for years, decades, hundreds. I don't know how long it could stay afloat technically before the currents wash it onto a shore, but I guess some, depending on where the whale is at, might be out there for years and years and years and decades maybe. And then it finally washes onto shore, and it's picked up all of that seawater, the sun bleaching down on it. That's one type of animalic. Ambergris. There's all kind of different stuff that you'll see. There's castoreum. There's all kind of different stuff that you will see. Castoreum comes from a gland of a beaver, if I'm not mistaken. So, and a lot of these are now synthetic. They're not the real thing. Some of the older bottles may have used real castoreum. Some of the niche fragrances I'm going to show you potentially do use real castoreum and stuff like that. So I have an entire list for you today, an entire video, but we're going to start with a couple that I kind of struggle with, even for me, when I love animalics, especially when they're done how I like them. There's a statement for you. I love animalics when they're done how I like them. But here's some that are done not necessarily how I like them, and this is a fragrance called Absolute Aphrodisiac. And it's by a house called Initio Parfums. Now, I am not impressed with this house at all. Nothing that I've smelled from this house had made me go, oh, I like what I smell. In fact, some of the stuff is downright laughable. Oud for Greatness. I think Oud for Greatness is an Initio Parfum, unless I'm losing my mind here. But some of the stuff that I've smelled from this house is just atrocious. No offense to the house, but just atrocious. And this falls into that category. This is like this ultra sweet. It's compared to Yop Homme. I would wear Yop Homme all day over this. In fact, I've got vintage Yop Homme, the Lancaster version, and I actually like that. I despise this stuff. This is ultra sweet vanilla that almost goes into a warm milk territory to my nose. And then you add this animalic castoreum to the bunch. So it's like vanilla and castoreum with leather and musk and white flowers. Just absolutely god-awful. I did say my plan is to finish all my perfume before I die. So if I get old and I still own this, I'm just going to drench myself in it one day. But in the meantime, it'll probably sit idle. Okay, now another one that I kind of struggle with, and this is a discontinued fragrance, and it's getting harder. Excuse me while I grab my my microfiber cloth. It's getting harder and harder to find, apparently, and that is a fragrance called Rare Petroleum by Histoires de Parfum. Now, I really like this house. They have a fragrance that I could have included that has some animalic facets to it called Rare Fidelis, but I actually like that fragrance. This one I really struggle with, and I can totally see why it's discontinued. In fact, the #1 main accord on Fragrantica is Animalic on this fragrance, and I completely understand why, because this is an oud perfume, and for the most part, I have actually left oud perfumes out of the equation unless they have serious animalic. So just like stinky ouds like the Night, not in here. There's an oud, this is not a top 10 that you can go watch yourself if that's kind of what you want to hear about. But the ones that are mixed with real animalics like this, I did include. And what this is mixed with is it's mixed with civet and musk. But the thing that kind of disgusts me about this fragrance, and maybe I need to wear it more and give myself more chance. I've only worn it once and it's but the thing that kind of disgusts me about this perfume is there's this aldehydic top, and it's a huge aldehydic top, and aldehydes mixed with oud. This gives off this almost like fish, this rotting wood fish smell in the open that mixes with the civet, and it is challenging. Trust me, even for me, I am just like, my goodness, what did I buy? Look at the color of the juice. It is deep, it's dark, it's animalic, but you know what? If this is getting rarer and rarer, maybe I'll just kind of hang on to it and see if my nose can accept what it is. This is a little 60 ml bottle, I believe. So I'll continue to give it a try, but boy, this one's tough on me. Okay, now we're gonna get more into my kind of perfumes. Here's one I wish I had a full bottle of. I only have a decant. This is Opus 9. And this got some love in my Nathalie Lorson Perfumer's Portfolio video. Excuse me, let me get this giant Clive Christian box out of the way. Okay, so this got some love in my Perfumer's Portfolio video when we talked about Nathalie Lorson, because she made this with Pierre Nagrin, and I love this fragrance because this has this floral, very indolic floral jasmine mixed with this animalic beeswax. Beeswax is another ingredient that can go animalic. And then you have civet in the base with ambergris. So you're talking 3 animalic ingredients here. And then the interesting thing about this fragrance is they were supposed to create a fragrance that smelled like the camellia flower. Well, if you know anything about the camellia flower, it has no smell. So the perfumers were set on this art project to create a flower that in nature has no smell. What would it smell like? And they came up with this, and it is gorgeous. It's definitely a night out fragrance. It's not something that you would probably wear to the office very much, but I mean, I would. I don't give a damn. But this is a beautiful fragrance for somebody with a mature nose. If you've only smelled designers and you smell this, you will probably be put off, I would guess, because it's going to take you some time to adjust to something like this. But man, I'm glad I have 3 decants of this. And so that is Opus 9. Okay, now we're going to go on to a couple other Amouages. Most of the Amouages are not too animalic. They are a little bit, but nothing crazy. So the first one is called Gold Man. And you can see gold right there on the collar. They've since changed it to write it down here, and I think it's gone through another reformulation. If you can find the older bottle, or even better, if you can find the pre-magnetic cap version, get that. But this is an amazing perfume. So there's some crazy stuff going on in the world right now. It is, what's the date today? February 24th. And so somebody got offended that I said this is Putin's signature scent. I didn't say that I supported Putin. I just said that rumor is this is his signature scent. Well, they didn't like that very much. Someone left me a comment about that. And so anyways, I just wanted to make that clear. I am not supporting Putin by saying that this is his signature scent. It's just stating a fact. And this is this very posh very old school. I mean, almost harkens back to the 1920s old school. Animalic floral. This amazing classical French animalic floral. This is when the House of Amouage had no name, just a dream by the Sultan of Oman, and they hired Guy Robert, who is one of the pillars of old school French perfumery, to create something with the best ingredients from Oman. So they use stuff like dog rose, which is also, I think, called rose hip, lily of the valley, frankincense, orris, jasmine, myrrh. There's a lot of myrrh in this. There's also a big slug of civet, and it comes through in the dry down especially, and the opening. I mean, it's a loud fragrance, and if you overspray, you can give yourself a headache. My wife says it smells like baby powder and animalic baby powder. I don't really get that as much, but do give this a sample if you're into animalic floral fragrances. And the fact that it was released for men, I mean, what a ballsy first release from 1983. Amouage Gold. Okay, now we're going to jump to 2009, and this came out right after Jubilation 25. So we're talking some of their big hitters. And again, this is Epic. Now, this is the version where it says it on the collar, but it doesn't say it right here or on the side. And this is a made in Oman bottle. But it is a magnetic cap. If you can get a pre-magnetic cap on all these, well, not all of them, some of them are too new to have pre-magnetic caps, but this one especially is supposed to represent this take on what the Silk Road would smell like potentially if you were carrying spices and goods from China to the Middle East. And this does have some oud in the base, but to me, it's not really about the oud. It's about the spices. You get this spicy nutmeg, cardamom, pink pepper, saffron, cumin, frankincense, myrtle, mace thing, and then you get the myrrh, but it goes into this leathery, dirty castoreum in the base that I absolutely love. But it's not too animalic. It's not so animalic that you know, it's impossible to wear. Although I did send Rich Mitch a sample, and he said he didn't like it too much. Something about it put him off. Maybe it was the castoreum. It does have a very unique smell. It almost has an emerald-like smell. The bottle is perfect for this fragrance. But maybe that's just me seeing the green bottle and saying that. But I love these presentations. I love how they matched the Swarovski crystal to the bottle. And if you didn't know, this is supposed to look like an old school Omani dagger. I forgot what they call those. I have one somewhere, but yeah, they would wear it at the front of their pants so they could just pull it out and wham. But the handle of it had this type of grip. Okay, next we're gonna go to probably the most animalic of, well, or the most animalic of the 4 full bottles I'm going to show you from Amouage. I would say Opus 9 gives this a run for its money as far as animalics go, but this is Overture Man. Overture Man is probably the best modern Amouage has put out for the last 5 or 6 years. You know, they kind of went down this crazy route where after Interlude, they made a couple of fragrances that were a little bit, you know, they were very artistic, which I loved, but you know, they're different. They're harder to wear, some people said, and I could totally see that. But some of their new stuff was just kind of, especially after this, they released a few fragrances that to me were fails. I didn't like whatever came in that, like, you know, that off green color bottle. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you look it up, you'll find it. I don't even know because I don't even care. But they released a couple that were, and then I bought Boundless and it was to me, but this was an absolute hit. This is a star. This is probably the best thing that they released in the last 5 years, I would say, maybe 6. And what makes this so amazing is it's a mixture of a couple notes that I love. You take this grapefruit opening and you mix it with cardamom and cumin. Big cumin in here too, by the way, in the opening. If you don't like cumin, do sample this because it might put you off. So now you can see they've also added the name on the side of the bottle now that we're moving to 2019. Look at the color of that juice too. I bought this when it first came out from Harrods. It was a Harrods exclusive and they shipped it to me in the US. But what makes this fragrance interesting is it mixes cognac and this leather in the base with animalic notes and frankincense, and frankincense and myrrh. So it has that Oman Amouage DNA, but it's modern because of the cognac. The grapefruit in this is stunning in the opening. That grapefruit ginger combo is so fresh for such a heavy animalic fragrance. But they don't even tell you what the animalic notes are. They literally just say animalic notes. So who knows what they're using here. But it's probably not something insane like the last fragrance I'm going to show you has goat hair tincture and skunk and all that stuff. Probably doesn't have anything like that. It's probably just synthetic civet, but they don't say exactly what it is. But this is the most animalic of the 4 full bottles I'm going to show you. The last one uses castoreum, and this is kind of an iris. This is a leathery, powdery iris floral take with big rose, big violet. And it's called Amouage Imitation Man. Look at the dent that I put in this bottle. For some reason, even though this wasn't my favorite, I kept reaching for it. Like I would just wear it. And every time I wear it, I would go, okay, I like it, but it's not my favorite Amouage. Obviously my other ones are my favorites, but then when it would come time to pick something to wear, I would pick it again. So who knows? But this has a note of citron fruit in the top. And so it's a little bit spicy. It has nutmeg and black pepper, but it's all about the orris and the florals, which are iris and Turkish rose. And then it's all about the, there's this leathery undertone with patchouli, myrrh, and castoreum. So castoreum is the dirtiness underneath, but it's very wearable. It's weird. It's strange. It almost smells like a vinyl record, if that makes sense. Imagine smelling a vinyl record from the 1970s, and that's what this smells like. An animalic vinyl record with some leather. Almost like you took a record out of a leather case. That's it. It's supposed to smell like New York City in the 1970s when Christopher Chong was growing up. I loved Christopher Chong. Please come back, Mr. Chong. Amouage needs you. Okay, now we're going to go to a real animalic time in perfume. Those were the warm-ups, okay? Now we're getting into the real stuff here. The first one I'm going to show you is a bottle that I need a bigger bottle of this. Rich Mitch has agreed to sell me his larger bottle, but this is a fragrance called Portos by Balenciaga. And as you can see, it's an eau de cologne, but this does not act like an eau de cologne. In fact, this eau de cologne will put many of the future eau de parfums and extracts I'm about to show you in their place. This is a beast for an eau de cologne. And this has so many notes that I just love. It opens with this mugwort, coriander, and bergamot combo. It goes to a bit of a floral heart with vetiver and cedar, stays extremely manly. And then you get hit with the castoreum, the labdanum. The labdanum in this and the leather make it kind of rich, a little dense, you know. There's moss in the base, and then there's myrrh and frankincense and musk, which I absolutely love. This smells so manly, so 1980s. This came out right at the turn of the century. And this almost like heralded, this was one of the entrance ways for the coming of all the crazy 1980 scents. But I need a full bottle of this, and Rich, I'm going to hold you to that full bottle agreement because I really want a full bottle of Portos. It is absolutely amazing. Long discontinued. But if you like spicy, leathery, animalic scents, you have to smell this. If you like some of the current fragrances that are about to come up that I'm going to show you, you have to check this out. This is right there with some of the greatest animalics. And these are not in any order, by the way. These are not ranked. Okay, now we're going to go to a fragrance I've shown a couple times on my channel, and that is Marbert Gentleman. I also have an aftershave thanks to Amouage. And this is the made in West Germany version. Absolutely love it. Made in West Germany. Ah, the good old days. And this is this musky animalic. Musky animalic with a huge slug of patchouli. So think of, what could I compare this to? It's almost like an insane Musc de Kubla Khan, but with olibanum and labdanum and civet in the base. And it is very dirty for a musky fragrance. Musk on its own can be a little bit animalic, but this just takes it to another level with the civet. I wore this as my scent of the day on Halloween, and boy, you talk about a scent memory. That is stuck in my brain. All right, now we're going to go on to one of my favorite, more modern animalic scents. And this is a fragrance from the house of Papillon, and it's called Salome. And I have to say, I'm a big fan of Liz Moore's work. This uses Hyraceum, so this uses that Hyrax poop smell. Hyrax is almost like... it's like left out in the sun to dry and all this weird. I don't know how exactly they use it. And someone would say, why in the world would you want to smell like that? I will tell you an interesting story. And I know we give Roja Dove a lot of heat, we don't cut him very much slack for some, and rightly so on a lot of things that he does. But one thing he said in an interview that really stuck with me is somebody asked him, why in the world do perfumers put animalic scents in perfume? And he said, well, at the risk of being blunt, I will tell you that when people think about animalic scents, they're thinking about the area of the smell. So if you have something, the anus is right next to the genitals. If you want somebody who is going to think about you in a sexual way, if a perfumer can hide some of that underneath, you shouldn't come out and smell Hyraceum or civet or castoreum. It should be hidden under all these other notes. And he said subconsciously, the brain is thinking about the animalic smell that they're smelling. They're thinking about that area of your body, if you will. And that kind of made me chuckle because I understood what he was saying. And in a way, he's kind of right. Some of my animalic scents I like front and center. But something like this, she did a great job of hiding the Hyrax. I even get a little bit of castoreum, even though it's not listed. I get this castoreum Hyrax combo. And it's definitely dirty. You can smell it's dirty, but you also smell some of the most beautiful notes in here. The Turkish rose and carnation and jasmine are glorious. There's oak moss in the dry down. One of my favorite modern animalic scents, but this is a full-on animalic chiffre. So you have to like the chiffre construction. I would say it's a chiffre. Somebody else might disagree, but to me, I get a big dose of chiffre. Fantastic fragrance, especially for 2015, and bravo to Liz Moore. She also has a fragrance called Anubis, which is fantastic as well, if you like resins and smokes and stuff like that. Okay, now we're going to go to the house of Guerlain, and I want to show you a discontinued fragrance first. This is this line has one of the most amazing uses of real ambergris in modern perfumery in the designer realm. This is a fragrance called Ombre Eternel. Okay, so you see I only have a 10 ml decan. I have a 5 ml backup decan. I wish I had more. I wish I had a full bottle of this stuff. Because this is just, when people see the title, Ombre Eternal, the reason this didn't do well is because people thought this was an amber fragrance. This is not an amber fragrance. This is a leather fragrance with a huge dose of real ambergris in it. And there's cardamom and coriander in the top, which I love those notes. There's orange blossom absolute in the heart. And then there's some woods in the base with leather and ambergris. Real ambergris. And it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Maybe there is a dose, a slight touch of amber. Maybe there's like labdanum or something in here, but this is an ambergris and leather fragrance for me, and I absolutely love it. And it's one of the absolutes to Orient that immediately got discontinued. I don't even think it made it 2 years. I think they released it in 2016 and discontinued it in 2018 or something because it didn't sell. And I'm very sad I never grabbed a bottle because this is special stuff from the designer realm, and it's just too bad stuff like this doesn't sell, you know? Okay, now we're gonna go old school, real old school from Guerlain. This is Jicky from 1889 or something insane. This was created by Amy Guerlain. The first perfume to use modern day synthetics, if you will. And there's a big hunk of civet in the base of this. So what you get is you get this very old school citrus and lavender smell, okay? And then you get a couple base notes like sandalwood, you get Guerlain vanilla, but then there's even a bit of a leather note in here, even though no one thinks of this as a leather perfume. There's tonka, but then what happens is you get these two animalics that kind of play off of each other, and that's ambergris and civet. And the civet here is a little bit tough to handle. It almost smells like halitosis sometimes, and that puts people off because it mixes with the lavender in a way that gives off this animalic halitosis type smell. And so Jicky, being an 1889 release, is not modern. It is tough for people to wear. But I'm glad I have a bottle for reference because if you wear fragrances like Heritage that harken to the past, you will smell bits and pieces of all the other Guerlain fragrances that came along the way. You'll smell Jicky, you'll smell Shalimar, you'll smell Abbey Rouge, so forth and so on in Heritage. That's the brilliance of Heritage. And so Jicky is, if you like this DNA, I would say, personally, if you made me pick one to wear, I would rather wear this. This is Mouchoir de Monsieur. It came out a decade or two later. 1904 this came out, and I believe that they have either discontinued this or stuck it only in their French boutique and no one else can buy it kind of thing. But you get this same lavender you get in Jicky, with some additional notes, lemon verbena, you know, there's cinnamon in here. I think the cinnamon's a little bit amped up here. But then you get the same halitosis civet. Even though there's no ambergris and civet listed in Mouchoir de Monsieur, I get the exact same feel as in Jicky, you know, almost like an updated form of Jicky. So I prefer Mouchoir de Monsieur. And grab a bottle if you can find one because supply is becoming very limited. These are amazing fougere fragrances. Amazing. Very lucky to have both of them. Okay, on to the last from this house, and I probably could have included, there was one that I just recently got, but I only gave it a first impression. I haven't worn it in full yet. It's a Cuir Cuir Encens or something like that. But this is the last one from the line I chose to include, and that is Encens Mythique. Now, Encens Mythique, to me, by the way, there is a little bit of the same DNA in these two perfumes. Call me crazy, but there's the same DNA in those two perfumes. Encens Mythique, though, is more about the rose and the ambergris. And the ambergris here, so you get this rose, saffron, aldehydic thing in the opening. And the aldehydes mixed with the rose and the ambergris gives this sparkliness that almost makes you feel like you're staring out into the ocean. It's a very contemplative scent. It's so good, though. I can't believe that this is designer perfume. You know, it's so good. It's absolutely amazing, and one of the best real ambergrisses you will smell in the designer game. These two, I really wish I had a full bottle of this. Ombre Eternal and Encens Mythique. Those two, best ambergrisses in the designer game. Not niche. Don't go talk about a Roja Dove. That's coming later. But designer, amazing stuff. Okay, now we're going to go old school. And we're going to go to the house of Ted Lapidus. And you know what it is. It is Lapidus Pour Homme. This is a vintage splash bottle. No sprayer on this bad boy. And I absolutely love this fragrance. Oh, God. Honey, tobacco. There's pineapple in the open. No, it's not a Ventus. This is a Ventus's stronger, older brother who went to war and came back. And there's a beautiful rose note. There's musk, patchouli, tonka. Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you can find one of these older bottles, this is one that only had 3 ingredients listed on it. Grab it. Absolutely grab it. The new version is very good, though, to my nose, even though they use more synthetic civet or, you know, whatever's in here, castoreum. There's nothing listed on Parfumo, but there is an animalic honey note in this as well. I didn't include Boss Number 1 because I did my favorite honey fragrances. Go watch my This Is Not a Top 10, but this does go rather animalic on me, and I love it. Okay, now we're going to go to a fragrance from the 1940s, and this is basically a proper leather sheath, okay? It's not Azure. I could have included Azure because that has a beautiful animalic leatheriness to it, but this one has civet as well, so I included this instead. This is Robert Piguet's Bandy, and this is the vintage EDT. This is a splash bottle, okay? And don't be afraid to buy a splash of this because this is, I feel like this is radioactive juice. This will never go bad. This is aldehydes. You get this greenness in the opening. So you get galbanum and tarragon. And then you get this floral heart that just seems to get sucked up by the heavier notes. There is oak moss, amber, musk, myrrh, patchouli. But the big thing is this smoky leather in the base, almost like you're smoking a cigarette and you just put it out on your leather with a big dose of civet. And that civet hits you early and hard. And so Bandy, wow. I can't believe this was marketed towards women. I just cannot believe it. It's so butch. Check this out if you like leathers like I do. Okay, next we're going to go to the other side of the aisle here. So we finished the right side of the table. Now we're going to the left side, and we're going to start with a Lagerfeld that I talked about recently. I showed it off on my channel for the first time. I've had this for a couple years now, but this is a fragrance called KL Homme. And this fragrance takes a little bit of Lagerfeld Cologne from 1978. This came out in 1986. So you have to remember, in 85, Obsession for Women came out. okay? And Obsession for Women was a huge hit. Everything smelled of that powdery, you know, animalic amber, if you will. And this is very similar, but for men, is the way that they released it. It's totally unisex, though. But this has this beautiful orange vibe that runs down the middle, just like the color of the juice, and just like Lagerfeld Cologne has that orange vibe. It's kind of like an animalic oriental fragrance is what it feels like when you're wearing it. There's a big dose of benzoin and vanilla and stuff like that in the base, but it's so 80s. There's civet, so it stays interesting and animalic to my nose, but it's very wearable animalics. Just like I said, kind of some of these Amouages are very wearable animalics. This is nothing like this from the 1980s. This is ultra animalic. Same with some of the ones coming up. This is very wearable. You know, the animalics are done with a light touch, if you will. Now we're going to go to one that was not done with a light touch, and that is Perry Ellis Cologne for Men. Do not buy anything other than the cologne for men. Somebody, one of my subscribers in my little group, my growing group, said that they went out and bought this on my recommendation, that they had the original and that they could not believe that the reformulation was as bad as it was. They actually said they think it was the worst reformulation that they've ever smelled, that the cologne for men is a completely different fragrance than Perry Ellis for Men, the EDT. So they said, do not buy anything other than the cologne for men. This has this huge slug of civet and oak moss. There's galbanum in the opening and aldehydes. There's incense and popanax and patchouli and vetiver and amber in the base. There's also this floral thing going on in the heart. There's old school lavender here. But the animalic civet and what feels like cumin hits you early on this fragrance. The first hour of this is intense stuff. So if you can get the cologne for men, do it. It's an amazing fragrance that no one talks about, actually. Okay, now one of the all-stars of the animalic scents. This is Yatagan. And as you can see, this is a vintage bottle. You can tell by the sticker. This is a tester that I got from Amouage. Thank you, Amouage. And Yatagan has this spicy, woody, forest floor thing going on that I just love. I love its strength. You know, it has this almost like a mossy chiffre, but you know, leaves that are rotting on the forest floor. You know, when leaves are damp and they've sat for a long time and nothing's disturbed it, and then you come along and kind of move them around and it has that under smell. That's what this smells like. The opening is tarragon and galbanum and lavender and petitgrain and bergamot. The mid is geranium, jasmine, pine needle. Pine is big on this fragrance too. Carnation, patchouli, vetiver. Base is amber, oak moss, coconut, which I think probably meant castoreum. Labdanum, leather, musk, and styrax. Someone said anytime you see a coconut note in the old fragrances, just replace it for castoreum. And that makes much more sense. Oh, it's amazing. Okay, now we're going to go on to one of the Animalic Musk all-star fragrances. All-star Animalic Musk fragrances of all time. Hall of Fame musk fragrances, if you will. This is the Palais Royale version. You can tell by the Shiseido sticker instead of Serge Lutens of Musc Kublai Khan in the bell jar. I only have a little bit left of this, and boy, that's actually enough for me. This stuff, you know, this came out in 1998, and I had an ex-girlfriend that actually wore this, believe it or not. And so I have a hard time wearing this, hence the reason I only have a small little bottle for studying purposes for the Ramsey Museum of Scent And Serge Lutens, or in this case, Shiseido version of Musc Kublai Khan is Animalic. It's dirty. It's hard for me to wear. Even if I didn't have the scent association, I think this would be a bit of a tough wear. I need to force myself to wear it more, but I know what it is, and it's dirty musk. I actually prefer some of the other musk fragrances coming along. Speaking of other musks, if you struggle with Musc Kublai Khan like I do, and you want something maybe a little bit easier to wear, check this fragrance out. This is from a niche house, and it's called Carnicure by Marlou. This has this cork cap, pretty cool. And this came out in 2016. It's orange blossom, violet, sandalwood, patchouli, civet, and musk with this insane whipped cream note. Cool Whip note, if you will. But it's an easier version of Musc Kublai Khan to wear, is what it is. It's a very similar type of musky feel. The civet makes it animalic. But, yeah, check this, check out Carnicure. Okay, now we're going to go to one of my favorite uses of civet in a fragrance. This is an animalic chiffre, and one of the most full-bodied chiffres that you can smell. Everything is full and loud. You know, I don't want to say loud in a bad way, but everything is... My God, I love this fragrance so much. This is Teatro alla Scala by Krizia. I have 2 backup bottles coming because I can't live without this stuff now that I've smelled it. And check this fragrance out if you love honey, beeswax, orris, civet. The civet in this is done to perfection. It just complements all these other notes. There's fruity notes. There's beautiful flowers. There's so much going on. Check this fragrance out. Okay, now we're gonna go on to one that I struggle with. It's a tough wear, and it's a new release too, 2016. This is Baptême de Feu, and this has castoreum in it. But what it feels like, Baptême de Feu translates to baptism by fire, and this feels like burning metal. It smells like you're burning metal with this candied mandarin peel thing. So you get this candied mandarin peel and gingerbread. So imagine like burning metal on Christmas while your wife is making gingerbread cookies or something. It's nuts. I mean, I wore it and I like it, but it's a fragrance made by a mental patient is what it is. I think Christopher Sheldrake kind of took his crazy side, put it on the leash, and let it kind of walk around for this one. Okay, now we're going to go to classic French perfumery. The bottle that everyone loves. I've shown this off a couple times. And that is Vintage Cuir de Russie by Chanel. The Vintage EDT before the less exclusives even came out. My God, this fragrance. Oh, it is a masterpiece. It is, this is Anastasia sitting in her palace in Russia, pre-Bolshevik Revolution. You can smell the horses. You can smell the aristocratic. This just has such an aristocratic flair, you know, a bourgeoisie, a upper crust of society, if you will. But at the same time, there's this dirty, horsey leather. There's one of the most amazing heliotrope notes in the dry down. There's also vetiver and birch. And the birch in this is... The birch tar in this is absolutely stunning. It's a Russian leather. But, my God. maybe if you let me keep one fragrance from my collection, this is what I would keep. It's impossible to find, but if you find it, usually I say don't pay $700 for a fragrance or $1,000. Pay it. Just pay whatever they want if you ever find this bottle. I found this new sealed, unsprayed, and I did pay a lot of money for it, but god damn, I'm glad I did. Because it is one of the jewels of my collection. Okay. Now we're going to go to a modern take on Chanel's Cuir de Russie. If you can't find that and you have $2,000 to blow, or you just want to buy a little discovery atomizer, this, whoops, I guess that won't show you anything. This is Roja's Great Britain. And I'll tell you what, if you right now said, Ramsey, you can pick a full bottle, even though you've been a little harsh on Roja on your channel, and you've said maybe he's not the perfumer, and you've said all these bad things about him, but you know what? I'm in a giving mood, Ramsey, and I'm going to give you a free bottle. Which one would you choose? Great Britain. I would pick a bottle of Great Britain. Great Britain is his take on a Russian leather, and it is gorgeous. It's well made. The materials are high class. There's a carrot seed note, which apparently I love. I could have had Leonard Porome in this video as well. That has a carrot note. This has a carrot seed note. It's a little bit different. There's leather, there's ambrette. This is very Roja'd, if you will. It's like taking Chanel Cuir de Russie and Roja-ing it up. It's the only way I can say it. It has that May rose, jasmine from grass, rose de mai, violet thing that he loves in the heart, that patented Roja DNA floral. With ambergris, real ambergris. I think there's civet here, even though there's none listed. And I think there's castoreum here, even though there's none listed. So just an amazing fragrance. I just wish it wasn't $2,000 a bottle. So I'll cherish my Discovery Atomizer. And then, when I think of Animalics and I think of Chanel, there's only one. And you know it. You know what it is, and it belongs here. It belongs probably close to the top. That is Antaeus, vintage Antaeus, with the EDT written above Chanel and the silver on the top of the cap and the silver atomizer. My God. Look at that. Look at the stain on the atomizer. Can you see that? Can you see the brown stain on the atomizer? Oh. It just has this pillowy, soft castoreum that you can just fall into. And it smells dirty, and it smells animalic, but it also smells like it's just giving you a big enveloping hug. It's gorgeous. It is just one of my favorite fragrances of all time. Absolute, especially leather fragrances. If you're a leather lover and you haven't smelled Antaeus, especially vintage Antaeus, you must get your nose on that. That's another one that you can pay big money for. That is Ramsey approved. These two Chanels are big money approved. In fact, if you can get both of them for half the price of Great Britain, you've done yourself well, okay? That's the way I'm looking at this. Don't go blow your money on one bottle of Great Britain. Get these two vintages, and I could just smell this. I could just sit here and smell this all day and never spray it. Okay, let's say you can't find vintage Antaeus, but you want to smell an amazing castoreum. I'm going to show you one that I think has castoreum, even though it's not listed in Parfumo. We're going off of my nose here. This is a fragrance called Maxim's Porome. Maxim's was a famous restaurant in Paris, or is a famous restaurant in Paris, that Christian Dior used to eat at. Love this stuff. I have a backup bottle of this too, by the way. But this is lavender, bergamot, carnation. Big carnation note here, by the way. Amber, jasmine, sandalwood, cedarwood, oak moss, leather, musk, and I think castoreum. Even though they won't say it, or it's not listed in the notes, I think there's castoreum in this. And the creator of this is, if I'm not mistaken, Dominique Ropion. So, if you are the type of person that will pay $2,000 for his The Night, just go pay $50 for 50 ml of this. And you are getting fantastic perfumery for what it is. Great value for money. I still prefer Antaeus, but I mean, come on. You're comparing Maxim, which probably most of you have never heard of. Or if you have, you thought it was crap because it was $40. And you're comparing it to Antaeus, one of the greatest masculines of all time. I mean, absolute no-brainer. Okay. Speaking of fragrances from that era, we're going to go to another all-time great perfumer. And his name is Thierry Vassa, and he created this. Salvador Dali Pour Homme EDT in the vintage with the strange white writing on the bottom. I love this stuff. I have a backup bottle of this as well. Salvador Dali opens with this anise tarragon lavender thing, and it dries down to this mossy, musky patchouli with amber, and what smells to my nose like civet, like real civet. It's so good. I wish he would make one scent like this for Guerlain before he leaves. Okay, now we are going to talk about a couple more Rojas. And there's two Animalic Rojas that I want to show you. One is a take on Heritage. So I said, if you like fragrances like Heritage, you can check out fragrances like this. But probably the closest, unfortunately it's very expensive, is a fragrance called Danger by Roja Parfums. And Danger takes Heritage and it Rojas it up in a dirty way. So you get the patented jasmine from grass, you get the violet, you get the lily of the valley, and you get cumin. Big extra dose of cumin here, and you get real ambergris. And maybe some sort of civet that's not listed, but it's definitely dirtier than regular Heritage. I love both of those fragrances. I would wear them both equally, actually. People think because this is $500 and Heritage is $100 or whatever it is, this is better. No, they're equally. You can't improve on Heritage. It's a masterpiece. Can you improve on the Mona Lisa? Yes, I said it. That's the way I feel about Heritage. Okay. Now, we're going to go to probably my favorite Animalic fragrance from Roja. And this is Diaghilev. And Diaghilev is a take on Mitsuko. It's almost like you mixed Mitsuko, Rochas Femme, who was done by the great late Edmond Rudnitska, and Roja'd it up. Okay, now I didn't put this dent in this bottle. Well, I put a dent in it, but not this much of a dent. I bought a partial because this is a very expensive fragrance, and so good. It's everything. I mean, I couldn't even read the notes to you because you wouldn't know what it smelled like anyways, but imagine the best Schiefer you've ever smelled with this Animalic civet, ambergris. It's floral, it's fruity, it's citrusy, it's bright. Sometimes I feel like it's bright, sometimes I feel like it's dark. It's yin and yang. It's everything in a Schiefer that I want. And the iris in this, the orris in this just stands out. It just shines. That powderiness just shines. It's it makes my mouth water. It's so beautiful. Okay, Now we're going to go on to a Frederic Malle, and this is Musc Ravageur. Now this is the vintage, what's this cap called? I don't even know what you would call it. Matte black cap. Back when it was a little bit more animalic. Musc Ravageur turned more gourmand as the years have gone on. I would prefer to wear this over Musc Kublai Khan, I think. It's almost like a musky, it's almost like a musky, dirty Cinnabon. If you've ever been to Cinnabon in the mall, that's what this smells like. It has this cinnamon. There is an old school lavender that puts some people off. I don't care about that. But you know what's funny is back in the day, they used to put an expiration date on these old malls. Look when it says mine expired. Ah, you might not be able to see it. You bastards. Well, I'll tell you. It says this expired June of 2016. Well, I better throw it out then. Amazing stuff. Cheers to Maurice Roussel. But if you like that fragrance, I will show you an animalic fragrance that I like even more. Even more than Musc Ravageur. It's the grandfather. It's the great-grandfather of Musc Ravageur. Why am I wiping the box? What's wrong with me? Okay, so this is the coffin that it sits in. And you can see the beautiful design. And this is a fragrance called Bala Versailles. This is the Pure Parfum. This is one of the best bottles in my collection. Jean Desprez made this. And this came out in the 60s, and apparently this was Michael Jackson's signature scent. This is Musc Ravageur when things were different in the world. Absolutely. Hey, did you just fall? Ah, there you are. Tried to escape. This is Musc Ravageur when things were different in the world. Bala Versailles, the palace at Versailles. It smells like a dirtier, more ambery Musc Ravageur without that gourmand aspect, if you will. But it is I saw this on eBay for $1,000 the other day, and I almost shat myself because I think I paid $70 for this 3 years ago or something. And I saw this exact formula, this exact one with there's different versions with writing on the inside. So I don't know if this is better or worse, or if the guy just wished for $1,000. But yeah, I mean, the prices on this fragrance have skyrocketed because Roja Dove highlighted this on the 5th floor of of Harrods as one of the greatest fragrances of all time. He put it amongst his greats. And so now that Roja Dove did it, of course, everyone has to go out and buy this. It's insane. But it is a great fragrance. So cheer. I mean, he does know his history. You have to give him that. Prices are outrageous, but he does know his history. Okay, now we're going to go on to an oud. And I know I said I wasn't going to include ouds in this list, but this is Dusita Oud Infini. And this is an extrait de parfum. And the reason that this is on the list is because it is one of the most amazing civet and rose fragrances you'll ever smell. Yes, it has oud, and yes, it has real oud, but the civet in this is out of this world. There's also an amazing rose note. Laotian oud is what they use, and bourbon vanilla absolute. Look at the color of the juice. Oh, I love looking at that. Look at that. Oh. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay. Now we are going to move on so we can finish this in a somewhat respectable manner. We're only an hour and 4 minutes in. We still have time. Okay. Next, I'm going to show you a fragrance that was done in the 1950s. And that fragrance was done by Edmund Rudnitska. And the fragrance is Eau de Hermes. This is a flacon. I'm not going to take it out. I've taken it out before. You guys have seen it many a times. But it is the older version with only 3 ingredients listed on Eau de Hermes. And this basically, it's a flacon. Well, hell, I'll take it out for you guys, whatever. Give me 1 second to remove it, if you will. Excuse me while I remove the flacon. So here's what it looks like. Absolutely gorgeous. With the orange wrap, the presentation. Oh, I can smell it through the stopper. It is unbelievable. It is the most amazing cumin fragrance I think you will ever smell. It came out in 1951. They have different versions. This is the pewter cap version if it had a regular bottle instead of a flacon. They're like individually numbered flacons. And so yeah, the perfumer's Edmund Rudnitska. This is this bergamot cardamom. The cardamom stands out. Clove stands out. Lavender with cumin. And there's a leathery base, but I could wear this all year round. This could be a signature scent for me. It's one of the greatest fragrances of all time. I think it's Edmund Rudnitska's greatest fragrance ever. I think it's better than Rochas Femme even, although I've never smelt an original Rochas Femme. For me, this is Rudnitska's masterpiece. And it is animalic because it has that cumin in it that just gives off this dirtiness, almost like this sweat, but for some reason it doesn't bother me at all. I absolutely love it. Okay, now we're gonna move on to a fragrance I wish I had a backup bottle of. How's that for greedy? I've got a bottle, but I wish I had a backup bottle, and that is a fragrance that all the writing is rubbed off, but it's called Joint by Rocco Barocco. How's that for a name? And forget about distributors. My distributor is Parfums 2P. Forget about that. Who cares? Just buy one. Just pick a bottle and buy one. Whatever you can get. Hesquenas or Parfums 2P. This is this tobacco with there's some spiciness obviously from cardamom and stuff like that. But really what you get is you get this animalic honey with dirty civet. So almost like you're smelling a mixture of the next 3 fragrances combined. Well, maybe not the next 3, but definitely the next 2. It came out in the 1993, and it's a throwback to the 80s, and I love this stuff. And you can still get it for under $100 a bottle for 100 ml. If you're a vintage collector like I am, it is a must. In fact, Sebastian put this as his #1 old school perfume, which kind of shocked me, but I don't mind. I understand exactly why he did it. Okay, now we're gonna move on to a fragrance I just scored 5 bottles of. I have 6 bottles now. I love this stuff too. This is Jacques Bogat Furio. Absolutely love this stuff. And Furio is this animalic civet. You know, the House of Jacques Bogart is known for cheap compositions. This doesn't smell cheap to me. It smells amazing. The patchouli and the civet and the oak moss and lavender, they all blend to just give off this. I love it. Hence why I have 6 bottles. And I plan on using them all before I die. Okay, and now we're going to go to the king of animalic perfumes. The king of, let's say, designer animalic perfumes. That's Kouros. King Kouros. This is a Parfums Corp bottle, but I have 2 other bottles with silver shoulders. And I have a Charles of the Ritz on the way, hopefully. So what can you say about Kouros? It's clary sage and coriander, aldehydes. There's honey. There's this animalic honey in civet. Some people say it smells like a urinal cake. I don't get that. I get one of the most beautiful civets ever. It's such a statement maker. I just love it. If you don't know Kouros yet, find a bottle with the silver shoulders. Forget Parfums Corp and all that stuff. Just get a bottle with the silver shoulders right here. And if this is white, don't bother with it. It's Kouros without his armor. He doesn't need that. And then the final one, the fragrance that has completely shocked me in a way that I usually don't get shocked. I went and bought another thing of this, by the way. So I have 2. I should have just bought a full bottle, but whatever. The most amazing animalic scent I've ever come across. This is Fiona by TSVGA Parfums, or as it's known in the community, Suga. Suga. Don't ask me. I don't know. But what I will say is that Fiona is an absolute... Let me read you some of the notes. I've done this before on my channel, but if you've never watched any of my other videos and you never saw me do this, let me just read you some of these notes. Oh, God. Okay. Siberian Deer Musk. This is an all-natural or a... look at that. Look at that. I think there's a civet actually swimming around in there. Okay, Siberian Deer Musk, civet, and these are all real, by the way. This is real stuff. Siberian Deer Musk, civet, brown ambergris, white ambergris, black ambergris, Hyraceum, Hyraceum absolute, Castoreum, Onica. I don't even know what that is. What is Onica? I assume it's something that's disgusting. Goat's hair tincture. Bourbon vanilla. Tonka bean. Skunk accord. Muskrat. Muskrat. Indian oud. Laotian oud. Vietnamese oud. Oak Moss Absolute, French Vanilla Absolute, Jasmine Sambac Absolute, Jasmine Grandiflora Absolute, Moroccan Rose Absolute, White Champaca, Champaca Absolute, White Lotus Absolute, Pink Lotus Absolute, Ylang Ylang, Annie Lang Ylang Absolute, and Frangipani Absolute. The most amazing animalic scent I've ever smelled, ever. And that is Fiona. Hats off to James Berry. I mean, what a fragrance he made. What can you say? What can you say about something like this? It is mind-bogglingly beautiful in a disgusting way, and I love it. So, cheers. Thank you for watching. And I will see you again soon. Let me know what some of your favorite animalic perfumes are in the chat, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.